In this lesson, we're going to take a look at one of the new animation features in Max 8, which is the limit controller. For a long time, people have requested for a way to limit the interactive transformation in the viewport for certain objects. For example, you might have a case where you don't want an object to move or rotate past a certain range. Now with the limit controller in 3ds Max 8, we can do that. Just press play and take a look at the animation. This is the basic animation we've been using. We're going to take a look at applying the limit controller to this wrist control. Right now, if we take the wrist control and rotate it, you'll see that it has an unlimited motion. We can rotate it all the way around in any axis, and that might not be great for some animators. You may want it to stop where the actual wrist would stop. So we're going to apply a limit controller to adjust the ranges of where this can rotate. Go to the graph editor and open up the curve editor. Here we have the tracks for this object's rotation, and as you can see, this is the animation that it has. First, we're going to set a limit to the x-axis. Select the x rotation and right-click, choose Assign Controller, and you can choose Float Limit. It's a float controller that you can apply to any track that's compatible with a float value. So just choose OK, and you get this Float Limit Controller dialog. This dialog allows you to set the limits for the controller, so we can enable or disable it, and it's applied as a master controller, and it has the original controller as a subcontroller to it. So we can enable also the upper and lower limit. Let's just set the upper limit to about 90 degrees and the lower limit to about 90. Now when you rotate, you see that you can't go past 90 degrees in either direction. And this allows us to work in the viewport and limit the range of the rotation for that object. Another side effect of the limit controller, as you can see in the graph editor, is any value that's beyond the limit gets clipped. So your function curve will always stay at that value if you've surpassed that in your animation. We also have two other values called smoothing buffers. The smoothing buffers allow you to damp the rotation when you reach the edge of the value. So if we set it to about 120, as you approach 90, it gets a little bit harder to rotate the object. The rotation gets slower, and it gives you a little bit of a damping on the rotation or resistance, which works very well. The smoothing buffer can be set to anything between the upper and lower limit. So in this instance, it can be set to a high of 180, or you can split the difference between the upper and lower limit. So this controller is really very useful for a lot of character rigging or even other animation applications. You can also have tracks for the smoothing and limits that you can put other controllers on. If you right click, you can go into Limit Controller, and you can toggle the limit as well as turn it on and off. And you can go in to set the upper limit, any value that you have in the viewport interactively. So you can pose your object and then just say set lower limit to that, or set the upper limit. So this is a great way to remove or copy and paste limits between other objects. So basically that's how the limit controller works, and it's simple yet very powerful.